Good evening, it's Friday the 9th of May and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Pope elected. Cardinal Robert Prevost elected as His Holiness Pope Leo XIV in the Vatican. Border crisis. India and Pakistan trade drone and missile strikes near Kashmir. Gate pledges. $200 billion philanthropic pledge aims to transform global aid systems by 2045.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Yasiru Bitana.
Good evening once again. In a historic conclave decision, Chicago-born Cardinal Robert Prevost was elected as the first American Pope, adopting the name Leo XIV, marking a new chapter in the Catholic Church's leadership.
As white smoke billowed from the chimney of the Vatican Sistine Chapel at 6:05 p.m. on Thursday local time, the world welcomed a new pope. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, now known as Leo XIV, has become the first American pope in the over 2,000-year history of the Catholic Church. Emerging in the traditional white cassock, the new pope appeared on the balcony overlooking St. Peter's Square to deliver his first message to the world.
La pace sia con tutti voi.
The 69-year-old was elected on the fourth round of voting just 2 days after the conclave began, with at least two-thirds of the 133 cardinal votes needed to confirm his selection. His election comes 17 days after the death of his predecessor, Pope Francis. In the Vatican, the atmosphere was one of celebration as the faithful welcomed the newly elected pontiff. U.S. President Donald Trump also took to social media, saying it's an honor to see the first American pope. Back in his hometown of Chicago, the mood was equally celebratory. Born in 1955 in Chicago, Leo XIV served in Peru for 2 decades, working with indigenous communities and the poor before being appointed Archbishop in 2015. In 2023, he was elevated to Cardinal by Pope Francis and took on the influential role of Prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops, overseeing key church appointments. The name Leo, from the Latin word for lion, symbolizes strength, courage, and leadership in the Catholic tradition. The last pope to bear the name Leo XIII, who served for 25 years from 1878, is credited with laying the foundation for modern Catholic teaching by addressing the social challenges of the industrial era. Cardinal Prevost's choice of the name Leo XIV is seen as a nod to this legacy. His diverse background, combining North American roots and deep Latin American connections, is being viewed as a potential bridge within the global church, appealing to both conservative and progressive factions. Looking ahead, Leo XIV is expected to visit South Korea in 2027 for the next World Youth Day. This would mark the fourth visit by a pope to South Korea and the first in 13 years since Pope Francis visited in August 2014.
His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, originally from Chicago, previously served as the Prior General of the Augustinian Order, bringing decades of leadership and missionary experience to his new role as the head of the Catholic Church.
Tonight, the world calls him Pope Leo XIV. To his friends, he's Bob. The multilingual 69-year-old told an Italian interviewer earlier this month
At Chicago.
that he grew up in a very Catholic family in Chicago. At Villanova University near Philadelphia, today bells rang out to celebrate one of their own. The new pope earned a bachelor's degree in mathematics in 1977. Villanova is one of only 2 Augustinian Catholic institutions of higher education in the U.S. The Augustinians here in Rome enormously proud. He first came to Rome to study church law, then went to northern Peru as a missionary. He spent more than 20 years in the country, becoming a naturalized citizen. There he would rise through the ranks of the church, becoming a bishop, then called back to Rome by Pope Francis to oversee the church's bishops, bringing a global and American perspective.
I am American, and I think I do have some insights into the church in the United States. So the need to be able to advise, work with Pope Francis, and to look at the challenges that the Church in the United States is facing. I hope to be able to respond to them with a healthy dialogue.
Like Francis before him, he wants a church that builds bridges and welcomes all. Though as a cardinal, he was a prince of the church, he never saw himself that way.
The bishop is not supposed to be a little prince sitting in his kingdom, but rather called authentically to be humble, to be close to the people he serves.
As a cardinal, he was close to Francis. Here's what he had to say back in 2013.
He's a man who, on the one hand, is very simple and very profound in his faith, but he's a hard worker, and he knows, I think, what's ahead of him.
Now it is his turn to lead the church. The man friends call Bob, the first American Pope, Leo XIV.
From Washington to Warsaw, world leaders have welcomed the election of His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, hailing the new American Pope as a bridge builder capable of guiding global Catholics through a time of social transformation.
The world seeing that white smoke, hearing those words in Latin, we have a Pope.
Habemus Papam.
A man with quite the resume, sending his love, sharing his hopes, people from all around the world and here at home reacting. French President Emmanuel Macron writing on X, a historic moment for the Catholic Church and its millions of faithful. To Pope Leo XIV, to all Catholics in France and around the world, I send a fraternal message. The British Prime Minister writing, the election of Pope Leo is a deeply profound moment of joy for Catholics in the UK and globally. Even Russian President Vladimir Putin weighing in, writing in a letter, quote, "Please accept my heartfelt congratulations on your election as Pope. I am confident that the constructive dialogue and cooperation established between Russia and the Vatican will continue to develop on the basis of Christian values that unite us." The move to select Pope Leo XIV, an American from Chicago, catching many off guard. He only became a frontrunner in the days leading up to the conclave, and his fellow Chicagoans celebrating his ties to the Midwest.
Across the United States, Catholics celebrated the historic election of His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, the first American to lead the Catholic Church, with gatherings and prayers in churches and public squares.
Jubilation for Catholics across the United States today. After that stunning revelation, the new Pope is one of their own. Catholic school students from Tennessee to Pennsylvania, jumping for joy at the news. Shock even among church leaders, including this bishop in Beaumont, Texas.
Prevost. Oh my God, it's an American Pope!
Social media buzzing over Pope Leo XIV and his Chicago roots.
We got a Chicago Pope.
Oh my God, the Chicago guy! Shut up!
He's chosen the name Pope Leo. I'm wondering what that birth chart looks like.
Churches from San Antonio to Washington, D.C., ringing in the new Holy Father with a centuries-old tradition, a chorus of bells.
The bells started tolling, as they are now, and it was just a very moving moment.
And in New York City, Catholics gathering outside the landmark St. Patrick's Cathedral, near their alma mater in Philadelphia.
American Pope, that's pretty cool.
These diner patrons letting the news sink in.
I know a lot of people have left the Catholic Church. Hopefully this new fresh blood will just bring everybody together.
The moment must-see TV for this University of St. Thomas student in Houston.
My roommate texted me, we saw white smoke, I ran down from my dorm, this room right next to us was packed.
And across town, some parishioners at the co-cathedral of the Sacred Heart fittingly finding out during Mass.
You know, we're going through a tough period right now. A lot of people are struggling. So I'm hoping we can pray harder and make this a better world for everybody, and I'm excited.
Peru is celebrating the election of His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, reflecting on his years of missionary service in the country, where he was widely considered for his humility, pastoral care, and advocacy for local communities.
As Pope Leo XIV introduced himself to the world,
A mi querida diócesis de Chiclayo en el Perú.
the Holy Father quick to highlight his ties to South America, speaking directly to his former diocese in Peru, in Spanish. Though the new pope is from the United States, he has spent about a third of his life in South America and holds dual Peruvian citizenship. Then a young priest, Robert Prevost, first came to Peru in 1985 as a missionary, where he spent 14 years supporting the community and spreading the beliefs of the Augustinians, the 13th century religious order founded by St. Augustine. He returned to Peru again in 2014 at the request of Pope Francis, becoming an administrator and eventually the Archbishop of Chiclayo, the capital city of the nation's northwestern Lambayeque region. His relationship with Francis, the first pope from the Americas, was a warm one.
I knew him when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires. He's a man who, on the one hand, is very simple and very profound in his faith, but he's a hard worker.
Francis brought then Cardinal Robert Prevost to Rome in 2023 to preside over the Pontifical Commission for Latin America.
It's not coincidental that Pope Francis chose me. I've been a missionary my whole life, and I was working in Peru.
Today, as the news of the new pope spread throughout the world, bells rang out in his beloved Peru.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side.
Welcome back. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney directly rebuked President Trump's controversial comments by declaring we are not for sale during a tense White House meeting that highlighted stark differences between the two leaders.
A first meeting between neighbouring leaders coming at a time that their countries' relations are at perhaps an all-time low. But US President Donald Trump gave Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney a warm welcome to the Oval Office. He had admiring words for him, congratulating him on his Liberal Party's election win.
I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take a vote for it.
Which came after Carney ran on a promise of standing up to Trump. A promise he fulfilled during the press event, quickly rebuffing the president when he repeated his oft-stated wish to turn Canada into the 51st US state.
Never say never.
Banter exchanged with smiles, but Canada has been taking Trump's threats of annexation very seriously. Also fueling the tensions are Trump's tariffs of up to 25% on Canadian goods, notably metals and cars.
Is there anything he could say to you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
This is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions.
This is a very friendly conversation, but we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada.
Carney is a former central banker who's ably navigated through more than one crisis. Now he's steering his nation through another one. And while his first meeting with Trump may have been relatively cordial, Mark Carney has made it clear Canada's old relationship with its only neighbour is no more.
The United States announced a temporary ceasefire with Yemen's Houthi rebels, agreeing to hold airstrikes after the group pledged to stop attacking American vessels in the Red Sea, though hostilities toward Israel may persist.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday announced the U.S. will stop bombing the Houthis in Yemen, saying the Iran-aligned group had agreed to stop interrupting important shipping lanes in the Middle East. The U.S. intensified strikes on the Houthis this year to stop attacks on Red Sea shipping. Trump spoke to reporters on the subject during an Oval Office meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister.
No, it's not a deal. They've said, please don't bomb us anymore, and we're not going to attack your ships.
After Trump's announcement, the country of Oman said it had mediated a ceasefire deal between Yemen's Houthis and the U.S. A Houthi senior official later said the group would, however, continue their attacks to support Gaza and asked Israelis to stay in shelters, indicating that the ceasefire with the U.S. did not include a halt of the group's attacks on Israel. The Houthis have been firing at Israel and at shipping in the Red Sea since Israel began its military offensive against Hamas in Gaza, after the Palestinian militant group's deadly attack on Israel on October 7, 2023.
Germany reimposed strict border controls and began turning away undocumented migrants, fulfilling a key campaign promising by its new government to reduce illegal immigration and boost domestic security across its southern frontier.
Germany's new government, led by Friedrich Merz, has announced plans to tighten border controls. The plan aims to reduce illegal migration and address concerns over security. Germany's Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt on Wednesday detailed the government's strategy to bolster border security, including the deployment of an additional 3,000 police officers at the border. This would increase the total border force to 14,000. Stricter checks will be conducted and undocumented migrants will be turned away at the borders. While the new measures aim to deter illegal crossings, vulnerable individuals such as pregnant women and children will still be permitted entry. The policy marks a shift from the previous administration's approach, which allowed many asylum seekers to enter Germany. Chancellor Merz emphasized that these actions are necessary to restore order and public confidence.
French President Emmanuel Macron urged Syria's interim leader Farouk al-Shara to protect civilians of all backgrounds while signaling support of easing sanctions if humanitarian conditions improve in the war-torn nation.
A first trip to Europe since taking office in January and a possible opening to deeper ties with the West. Much was at stake as Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara arrived in Paris. The visit comes amid deep uncertainty in Syria, where al-Shara took power after his Islamist group ousted Bashar al-Assad. As it tries to emerge from more than a decade of war, the country has seen sectarian violence in recent months. In March, more than 1,700 people were killed, mostly from the Alawite minority. France's president voiced concern over the bloodshed. Macron said that if progress is made, he will push the EU and the US to lift sanctions, a move aimed at boosting Syria's economy. But the visit drew sharp criticism from France's right wing. Opponents pointed to al-Shara's past links to Syria's al-Qaeda affiliate. Far-right leader Marine Le Pen called the meeting provocative and irresponsible. Syrians from the Alawite and Jews communities also protested, denouncing the visit.
Somalia launched its first national voter registration drive in decades, allowing citizens to participate in upcoming local elections and marking a critical step away of the clan-based political system long dominant in the country.
Rudy Mohammed is standing in line at a voter registration center in Mogadishu. The 70-year-old is among the many citizens registering for upcoming local government elections.
My last time to vote was during the first president of Somalia, Aden Adde. For me, it is happiness and dance, and I will be happier if I get to participate this time round. It is happiness for me to be a registered voter in our country. We are now ready.
It's a rare political shift in Somalia and breaks away from the long-standing practice of leaders being chosen by clan elders. Elder Mohammed Hassan Had says the shift is a welcome change. He describes how lawmakers were previously chosen through a combination of conference politics and clan elder selections, with wealthy or well-connected candidates often securing positions. He says it is a dignity for the country when the public can vote for the candidate they like and reject the one they don't. But the process faces challenges. Election officials have been taken aback by the overwhelming public interest, leading to overcrowding at registration centers. And an opposition lawmaker has also raised concerns, warning against disruptions to the process or changes to the constitution without consensus.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. The 2025 Met Gala honored black fashion with the theme Superfine, tailoring black style as stars like Zendaya dazzled in bold looks, celebrating the legacy, creativity and resilience of black designers.
Like every year, stars gathered on Monday evening at the Met Gala in New York City, in a contest of flamboyance and one-upmanship. Attendees interpreted the theme Super Fine, Tailoring Black Style, the Met's new exhibit celebrating Black dandy fashion. Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton incorporated African symbols, including baobab flower motifs and cowrie shells, into his look, while his co-chair, Coleman Domingo, stunned in an intricate pearl jacket.
Man, it's just beautiful to be around other Black, creative people who redefine what it means to wear a suit. For me, it's about honoring the past, honoring your ancestors, honoring presently my evolution, and honoring the future.
The new exhibition dives into Black dandyism, an intricate weaving of Black and European fashion started in the 18th century and culminating with the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s. Curators showcased this subversive fashion history as well as its social and political implications. Vogue editor Anna Wintour noted a strong response to the exhibit in the current American political climate.
Obviously, this exhibition was planned many years ago, and we didn't know what would be happening in the political arena, but it's taken on a new sense of importance and purpose.
Political considerations aside, the Met Gala remains the place to see and be seen. Rihanna and rapper A$AP Rocky used the occasion to announce that they were expecting a third child. Rihanna accessorized her suited ensemble with a baby bump that she showed off to cameras. With one seat at the dinner going for $75,000, this year's gala raised $31 million for the Met's Costume Institute.
Disney announced plans to build its first Middle East theme park in Abu Dhabi, promising an immersive experience that blends iconic storytelling with regional culture through a partnership with developer Mira.
Finally, Walt Disney announced on Wednesday that it plans to open its first theme park resort in the Middle East, selecting the United Arab Emirates capital Abu Dhabi as the location. Disney's 7th global resort and first new theme park in over a decade will be on Yas Island, a popular destination with many other family-friendly attractions. The project is a collaboration with Mural, a regional developer known for creating immersive destinations. The new resort aims to blend Disney's iconic storytelling with Abu Dhabi's rich culture and modern architecture. Disney CEO Bob Iger said the project will be authentically Disney and distinctly Emirati.
Well, that's a wrap from all of us here at World News Tonight. I'm Prashansa Gunawardana. We leave you now with visuals of blood-red ceramic poppies flowing across the Tower of London in tribute for VE Day. Thank you for having us and have a good night.